Hello, Ayumi here, and today I've got a video on when to play Destro versus Affliction or Demonology. After watching this video, you'll know what comps Destro is good in, and when you should be really playing Destro. By also playing the right comp, you'll notice that you're going to win a lot more. In this video, we will be going over when Destro is the best spec for a comp, and as such there will be two segments. The first segment will be going over what strengths and weaknesses Destro has, and the second segment will be showing what comps are good for Destro and why they are good. Alright, that's it for the beginning. Let's get to it. First, I'm going to go over the strengths of Destro, and then the weaknesses. The strengths are as follows. The first is that it has really high burst via Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, and Shadowburn. It's important to realize how fast you can deal damage in Arena, and that's really the key to winning. If you did 10k DPS and never crit and it never varied, it would take a very long CC chain to actually get a kill. But if you did 5k DPS and then occasionally did 25k DPS, the opportunity for a kill is obviously much greater. The second strength is that it's actually quite a bit more survivable than compared to Affliction, but not Demonology. The reason for this is because of Ember Tap. It's basically Dark Regeneration whenever you want it, at the cost of 10 Ember. Permanently having Dark Regen is obviously really strong, and as such, most teams won't actually attack the Destro Warlock. The last strength of Destro is that it actually has two very relevant school trees. You can cast a Fear, get kicked or counterspelled, and immediately start ramming Incinerates or Chaos Bolts. This is obviously incredibly powerful, and I think it's a good design for a spec that has to cast everything except its Execute, which is Shadowburn. That's it for strengths. Now on to weaknesses of Destro. The main weakness with Destro is that it actually has a very hard time getting its burst off against good players. A good team will be ready for Dark Soul and act accordingly with counter cooldowns, stunning, fearing, or pawing the Warlock. If Chaos Bolts did more damage without Demon Soul and were slightly faster cast time on Chaos Bolt, I imagine that Destro would be a very good spec and played all the time. The second weakness of Destro is that its damage is not very scary without Dark Soul up, meaning that when you're waiting for that dark cooldown to come off, you're not likely to kill someone. As I said before, Destro sustain is actually quite bad. The last of the weaknesses of Destro is actually that it has to cast all of its spells. Basically everything you do is open to being stopped at the enemy's discretion. Granted, you're not completely stopped when they counterspell you, since you have two schools. You are still not doing what you want to be doing. Alternatively to counterspelling, the enemy team can always just run around a pillar, making sure that you don't really ever get a cast off outside of during a fear. Obviously this is kind of a glaring flaw in the primary, issue with Destro. You can always just run from it, LOS, counterspell, or ground, because everything's casted, and it's very obvious when the Destro is going to be doing its damage. Okay, that's it for strengths and weaknesses. Now I'm going to get into when it's a good time to play Destro versus Affliction or Demonology. I would say that the best comp for Destro Warlock right now is Ellie Shaman, Destro Lock, Mistweaver Monk. There are a few reasons for this, but the main one is that this comp provides you with a long stun via leg sweep, and that's incredibly hard to kill, like really, really hard to kill. And these two things allow you to have basically a game go until you set up a good Demon Soul Chaos Bolt into a stun target with your Ellie casting, which is really a brutal combo. If you can set up your leg sweep into Dark Soul Ascendance every 2 minutes properly, eventually you will always get a kill. In between your 2-minute attempts, you can just try to control as a Warlock and set up your Embers, and really let your Ellie provide most of the brunt work for damage. This is really your primary goal, other than make sure your team doesn't lose until your next burst attempt is ready. Here I'm going to show you some examples of bursting as Ellie Destro Monk. You can see here we just forced a dispersion on that Feral off of a Fear, and the reason why this is so effective is just because the amount of damage a Destro Warlock combined with an Ellie Shaman can do in such a short window. You'll see here that we set up the burst off of Fear, and it's just crazy. And we're just going to line up another, Fear on another DPS, and we're going to instantly kill the target again. I mean, that's kind of what we're aiming to do, is get people in stuns and get people out of position in the center of the map. Because as soon as this comp can cast into one target, it's going to kill it. And you can see here we're going to line up our burst yet again off of another fear on this priest. I just wanted to, really emphasize that how much damage this comp can really do when you're setting things up off of fears and stuns. So you'll see we get this priest in a full stun here, the leg sweep, and we go that into a blanket silence, and we almost instantly kill him. He lives at 40k life on a life swap, and we didn't even use any cooldowns. We just used our standard, fear into a leg sweep. We can do that every 45 seconds. And, in between that is every third one we can do with Demon Soul, and if we had Demon Soul there, for instance, he would have just died. So just an example of really what this comp is good at, doing small, short switches to any target that's in the center of the map or in LOS and able for both your casters to cast into. I mean, there aren't really many comps that can do this properly, and I would recommend that if you were playing this, I would say play as Destro, because having the opportunity to just instantly kill a team whenever they're out of position is incredibly powerful. And you'll see here is the end of the match. I have paused. We're just going to line up some CC on the priest and kill the mage, who doesn't have any cooldowns left, just because we've CC'd him. We CC'd his healer and force block already twice, so he has nothing left. And we just sit here and cast everything into him. The Feral can't interrupt me because he already did. And we easily just slay the mage. I also like occasionally playing twos as Destro with a priest. It makes the game a bit more exciting, and alternatively you can play some double DPS as Destro, and it's actually viable. I would recommend playing twos as Affliction with another DPS because you just die instantly, but when you have Ember Tap you can actually prolong games and turn the games into actually real matches as double DPS. So if you're interested in playing some twos and you want to play with your friend who's also a DPS, I would recommend playing Destro, and probably Destro over Demonology, which is your two options. You can't really play Affliction. So yeah, Destro's good in twos, and it's also good in this comp in threes. I wouldn't really recommend it outside of that because I think that it's too easy to stop, but otherwise I think Destro can be good if played in the right circumstance. Alright guys, that's it for this video. After watching this, you should have a good understanding of what makes Destrolux good and what makes them bad, and also when they're generally played over Affliction or Demonology. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below.